valuable, but we also want those to be the right tree.
And Ellen Crocker with UK Forest Health Extension says for folks in Kentucky, Bradford pears are not the right tree. While they might be pretty to look at, the trees are known to cause not so pretty damage due to their weak branches.
One branch had fallen off and totaled her car, and then after this windstorm, March the 3rd, another large branch came off and hit the house.
The Bradford Pear Bounty Program is working to combat these intrusive trees by offering free replacement trees to property owners who remove their Bradford pears.
Calorie pear is just one of many different invasive plants, and trying to make people aware of some of those invasives. Why are they a problem? The negative impact that they're having in our natural areas, but also the fact that we can do a lot about that.
That's why Edith and Butch Horn came out to Saturday's bounty event. They walked away with 2 trees to replace their daughter's Bradford pears.
I didn't realize they weren't native to Kentucky, so they're everywhere. But we're so thankful that we do have some new trees for her yard.
Trees that aren't invasive, are native to the bluegrass, and hopefully won't cause as many issues. In Frankfort, Samantha Valentino, WKYT.